The sun was sinking low over the cracked plains of the frontier, staining the sky with bruised shades of red and gold. When Elias Crow realized he was dying, not in the dramatic way men imagined, but quietly, with his breath rasping like dry wind through broken fences, his body weak against the rough wooden bed in his ranch house that smelled of dust, old leather, and loneliness. Elias had lived 63 hard years carving a life out of unforgiving land, burying a wife taken by fever, a son lost to a river, and neighbors claimed by bullets in time, and now all that remained of him was a failing heart, a small glass vial of medicine the traveling doctor had left him, enough for 2 days at most, and the echo of regret that followed him like a shadow as he stared at the ceiling, listening to the boards creak while night creatures woke outside, when a sound broke through his haze, a soft knock at the door. Hesitant, almost afraid, no one came to his ranch anymore. Not since word spread that Elias Crow was a dying man, and yet the knocking returned, weak but persistent, forcing him to drag himself up, every step agony, until he pulled the door open and found her standing there, a native girl, no more than 12 or 13, skin pale with sickness, eyes too large for her thin face, wrapped in a worn blanket that barely kept her upright, her lips trembling as she spoke in broken English, begging not for food, not for shelter, but for medicine. And in that moment Elias felt the cruel weight of choice press down on him heavier than any storm he had ever endured, because the vial in his pocket was the only thing keeping his heart beating through the night. He could send her away and maybe live to see another sunrise, or he could give her the medicine and accept what he had been running from all along. And as the wind howled across the plains, memories flooded him of a time long ago when he had stood silent as soldiers drove a native family from their land, of a child crying while he turned his back, telling himself it wasn't his fight, and shame burned hotter than his fever as he looked at the girl swaying before him, death already reaching for her. With shaking hands, Elias knelt, pulled the vial from his pocket, and pressed it into her palm, explaining how to take it, watching disbelief turn into fragile hope in her eyes. And when she tried to refuse, saying he would die, he surprised himself by smiling, a real smile, and whispering that some lives were worth more than fear. He guided her inside long enough to drink the dose, then wrapped her tighter in the blanket and sent her on her way, watching her small figure disappear into the dark as the last light faded from the sky. The moment the door closed, the ranch fell silent again, but something inside Elias felt lighter, as if a debt long unpaid had finally been settled, though his body betrayed him quickly after, collapsing back onto the bed, pain surging, breath shortening, each heartbeat a struggle as he wondered if this would be his final night. The hours crawled, moonlight slipping through the window, shadows stretching across the walls like watching spirits, and fever dreams took hold. Visions of open plains untouched by fences, of children laughing, of his wife's voice calling his name, forgiving him. Somewhere near dawn, when the world was still and his breathing had grown shallow, Elias heard footsteps outside, not the soft ones of a child, but slow, deliberate steps, followed by the creak of the door opening on its own, and through blurred vision he saw a tall figure enter, wrapped in traditional garments, face painted with symbols that seemed to move in the dim light, eyes sharp and ancient fixed entirely on him. Fear flickered through Elias's fading consciousness. But before he could speak, the man knelt beside his bed, placing a steady hand over his chest, murmuring words in a language older than the land Elias had claimed. And as the first light of morning crept across the floor, Elias Crow felt something extraordinary happen. His pain eased, his breathing steadied, and for the first time in months, his heartbeat strong and sure, as if answering a call far beyond medicine. The last thing he saw before sleep claimed him was the shaman's knowing gaze, filled not with judgment but with balance restored. And if this story has already pulled you into its mystery and heart, remember to subscribe to the channel, because what happens next will challenge everything Elias believes about life, death, and the unseen forces that watch us all.